There we go. I finally broke through. This is my third attempt at trying to record this. So, let's get right into nuts and bolts. Okay? Silent Hill chapter. We're gonna break this down. We're gonna break the cosmetics down in a minute. What we need to start on are the login blood points. This? Good. Me likey. They should have a daily login for blood points. Now, 50k is a bit excessive for a daily. But I think it should be like 5,000. 5,000 blood points a day for logging in. I like that. Star. To the star we go. These. Me no likey. Bad. Very bad. Why? Allow me to explain. Maybe. Okay. I want the pants. I don't want the top. Oh, wait! It's a set! I have to run it all together. Where's he at? Legion. I like the Five Nights at Freddy's. I want the head. I don't want the rest of it. Oh! Wait! It's a set! Me no like... Custom game, we shall go. Need to have a discussion. We're gonna start with the map. Then we'll go to the killer. Then we'll go to the survivor. Map. Where's the map? Map. Mixed. Little good, little bad. I think the real problem with the map is the design of the map is very similar to Hawkins, Lurie's, Meatpacking. It is an indoor-only type map. It is multi-elevational like Hawkins. My main issue with the map is mainly that it suffers the same problems that Hawkins does, but unlike Hawkins, the balance on it's a bit different. So, the main issue with the map is that, unlike Hawkins, which has a large number of unsafe pallets, which lend themselves to not being safe for a survivor to continuously loop, but strong enough due to the variety and the distancing of the pallets. It also has a good amount of vaults and a good amount of drops for lith or balance. So, you can run pretty much all of the exhaustion perks except sprint burst. This map doesn't have that. Since I played on PTB, they cut the amount of pallets in half. And now the only pallets that are there, there's a few safe ones, and there's a few trap zones. Like, there is a double pallet set up in a corner that is absolutely deviously insane. But the main issue with that is that strength is then removed in the entire rest of the map where there's not enough pallets, and the pallets that are there are unsafe. This could be fixed by having more vaults. There are not enough vaults. This could be fixed by having more drop-downs. There are not drop-downs. And unlike the Grave of Glenvale, the breakable walls help the killer more by leaving them up. See, as a survivor, I find myself running around trying to look for ways to get in or out of rooms and not being able to find that because there's a breakable wall in the way. So, I honestly believe it is the killer's advantage, other than that one door which lets you go up to the generator at the asphalt. There's a little ramp where you can go up, and there's a generator at the top, where the only way the killer can really get to there without going to the stairs and up the floor and marching in, they can just break the wall down here, go up, and chase them off the gen. Other than that wall, everything else should be left up as a killer. There's no reason to break the other walls. I love the randomization they did with the totems, which is nice. I think the only improvement I'd really make to this, if I was going to do anything, I think it should be similar to Meatpacking. There should be an indicator outside what rooms have a gen. If they wanted to put up with it being a school, if they want to put up like a chalkboard outside some of the bigger rooms that have generators in them, I also think that the generator there should be a generator in that one spot in the center of the map where there's that little demon ritual place there. I think that would be an interesting place because you can view that from pretty much anywhere on the map. I think that would make it a very risk-reward type generator. Other than that, I think the map is a very, very killer-friendly map. In terms of what killers work well on that, we'll do a little breakdown. Trapper works very well. This map lends itself very well to stealth killers and to trap-based killers. Pyramid Head is no exception. So I think this is a very well-done map for a lot of killers. I think a lot of killers will be strong on it. Trapper, no exception. Having played against him, he's definitely strong on that map. Wraith, I would say, is probably the weakest of the stealth or trap killers to play the map, but I think Wraith is strong on it as well. Billy is weak on it. It's an indoor-only map. Nurse doesn't really have bad maps. I think she's fine. I think she does a good job on the new map. It might give you some problems if you're a baby killer, if you're a baby nursey, but you should be fine. Hag does exceptionally well, just like Trapper. I think the Doctor is... This is a mid-tier map for Doctor. I really think so. The size of the map, due to the height and how short the map actually is, but it's tall because of the multi-levels, I think this map lends itself well for the Doctor if you're using Static Blast. If you're trying to use Shock Therapy, it's a no-go. There are not enough things for you to take advantage of. Mike will be fine on it. Mike's a great killer for the map. I don't think Huntress is going to do well on the map. Like I said, there's not a lot of loops on that map. There really isn't. And she excels at shutting down maps, and the way the elevation on the map works, it's not really suited for her to be able to snipe up or down, except in maybe one or two spots. Bubba's going to struggle because of the elevation. He can't protect enough areas. Freddy will be great. All the fake pallet locations I don't think are going to be great because, again, I think if you run fake pallets and you can force survivors to use up the real pallets, he becomes even stronger. I think snares are his best one, which is rare for me to say. I think he works better. Pig will be perfect on it. It's a great map for Pig. Clown will struggle, but Clown struggles on most maps. I think because there's not enough loops for him to realistically cut off with his bottles, he's not going to do well. Spirit's another one. She's 50-50. She's like Doc. I think her power will lend her well in being able to track survivors on it, because a lot of survivors tend to just run everywhere. A lot of her strength comes from mind gaming loops. She doesn't have that luxury on this map. This map does not feature loops. That's why I'm trying to tell you guys. So loop-based killers don't do well, and I think that might give her a problem. In terms of general mobility, she should be fine. In terms of pressure, she should be fine. Especially with Terror Radius, because the Terror Radius is omnifloric. If you play a good Spirit on Meatpacking, you should have no problem playing a good Spirit on Silent Hill. Legion will be great. If Legion is using his power, he should actually be great on that map, but in practice, I have not seen it. I have not seen very many Legions that can play the new map very well. So, I'm hesitant on that. Plague, I don't think Plague will do well. I honestly don't. I think she suffers from the same issue that the Huntress does. I think her real power is mostly going to be chasing injured survivors if they don't cleanse. I don't think her power has a lot of versatility. There's a lot of corridors where you can duck into to avoid her, but once you're in that corridor, it's very open. There's not a lot of, vertical cover to try and duck under if she has red puke. But I think with enough practice, people could learn to play around her on that map, so I don't think she's going to be that strong. Ghostface is exceptional. I think Ghostface this is a top 3 map for him, up there with Meatpacking and Hawkins. It really is, and Lurie's. Demogorgon can do well because of her teleporting, because it's multi-directional. I think it'll be very difficult for you as a survivor to determine where she's coming out of, unless you actually have line of sight. But in terms of her shred ability, it's not going to get much value, except in the longer corridors, where you can just shred and there's nowhere to go as a survivor. You can't, cut left or right. Other than that, I think the Demogorgon will have a hard time. If she's not shredding, and her portal placement is bad, I think she's going to struggle. So that's a mid-tier call-up. Oni's bad on the map. Don't use Oni. She's just like Billy. The Deathslinger... It's a mid-tier one. The fact that he has the long corridors with no real pallets would seem to make him stronger, but I think he's one of those killers who's going to have a hard time finding survivors in the first place, and when he does, he may have to chase for longer than he should. And Pyramid Head himself will do very well. The map is designed for Pyramid Head. If you want to compare him, of the last 4 killers that have released, Pyramid Head probably has the best designed map for the power. Because Glendale is not a good map for Deathslinger. It's way too big. Sanctum of Wrath is okay for Oni. It's not good. It's not bad. I'd say it's on the bad side. Same with Demogorgon and Hawkins. It doesn't really work well. You know Temple of Purgation did not go with the Plague. The last killer that really went well with their power was Legion, to a certain extent. Because Legion can actually patrol the map well with Frenzy. But, I mean, Legion's power is just not suitable. But, no, this is the first killer we've had in a long time. I'd say, without a doubt, I'd say since Spirit and Yamoka, the initial Yamoka release, where the killer and the map went well together. Like, this is Pyramid Head's best map. So now, this will lead us into his teachable perks before we get to the add-ons real quick. So, for his teachable perks, we're going to start with Deathbound. Yeah, this is Deathbound right here. This is whenever a survivor heals another survivor, 1 health state, they will further than 32 meters away from the killer. They will scream, revealing their location and activating the perk for the 60 seconds, which is a buff from what it was on PTB. During that time, the survivor will suffer oblivious aspect when traveling further than X amount of time from the healed survivor. There is 2 issues I have with this perk. So this perk works as a long-range version of Nurse's Calling, letting you know that 2 survivors are healing each other further than 32 meters away. So you can go back and chase them. The main issue with this is that, first off, self-care is still a thing, and medkit healing is still a thing. Inner strength is still a thing. So this perk gets no value out of it. The other thing that bothers me is this perk is countered by Calm Spirit. There's that. And in addition to that, it only lasts from 60 seconds after the heal. Now, most killers, if they're on the other side of the map, let's say, and you're healing over here, it's going to take them a good 10 to 15 seconds before they can even get to that location where a survivor may have already gone. It functions very much like Make Your Choice, but for healing. But the difference is the side effect of Make Your Choice is if you hit the survivor that is Make Your Choice, they go down in 1 hit. The side effect of this is mildly inconveniencing the survivor and maybe getting a surprise hit on them with the Oblivious. Not to mention, if the 2 survivors just stay there and work on a generator, this perk is completely useless. I've actually played against this perk. It is not an inconvenience. I believe that this perk is at best a C tier perk, and at worst, it can be a D tier perk. It has value, it gives you information at the very least, and it does mildly inconvenience a survivor. It is not at all worth running. Maybe with nurses is a good one too. If they know you are running the nurses, so they want to heal away from you, that perk can make it an annoyance. But the fact that it requires a second perk makes it less than valuable. The next one we have is Trail of Torment. This to me is again a relatively bad perk. So, after kicking a generator, you get the undetectable stat effect for 16 seconds. During this time, the generator will be revealed as yellow to all survivors, and this effect can trigger once every 60 seconds. There is one big problem with that. There is only one other perk in the game that causes a generator to get highlighted in yellow for other survivors, and that is Better Together. Now, Better Together is not a very well-run perk, which means anytime a survivor sees a generator pop up in yellow, they're going to assume you have this perk, because the chances of Better Together being run are so low. If there were more perks in the game on the survivor side that let them highlight generators as yellow, or if, for example, if maps cause generators to come up in yellow. Generally, the yellow generator is a killer thing. Look at Surveillance. Discordance. These are the first 2 things that pop to mind, and these are common killer perks. So, as a survivor, I'm not going anywhere near there. Not to mention that 16 seconds of undetectable, while that's a decent amount of time, it's about the same as the Ebony Demogorgon one. It's actually a little bit less, I think. And it's a little bit longer than Tinkerer. Is not worth it because you give away your position. And the fact that this perk has a cooldown is a problem for me. It's just so weak across the board. This is the best of his perks. That's not saying a lot. This is a very bad perk. It's probably, again, this is a B tier at best, but it doesn't work on him either. It works on a killer with mobility. Freddy, Demogorgon, Nurse, Hag, somebody that spirit that can very quickly go to the other side of the map and take advantage of the undetectable. Almost as a decoy, as a, I'm kicking this generator, so you think I'm over here, but secretly I'm actually over here. The fact that it has a cooldown as well is just insulting to run. Then we have the last perk, Force Penance. This perk is effective in one unique scenario, and I came across it today, and it's still backfired, which just shows how bad this is. This is a D tier perk. Okay. Survivors who take a protection hit are inflicted with the broken status effect for 60 seconds. Here's the problem with that. What that means is a survivor who body blocks gets hit with the broken effect for 60 seconds, which means they can't heal. For a survivor to go from healthy to injured, this means absolutely nothing. The only time that this works is when an injured survivor takes a protection hit for another survivor. The chances of you as an injured survivor willingly taking a protection hit is not strong. Now, this activated earlier today. It's because somebody took a protection hit with borrowed time. Got hit by this. Now, they could mend. They couldn't heal, but they could mend. Now, they ended up going down. I took aggro. Killer chased me for longer than 60 seconds. In that time, the person could not recover on the ground because a dying survivor with broken can't recover off this perk. It literally doesn't do anything else. The only value of this perk is to keep people who are broken from recovering. This, as a survivor who's injured, you're not going to be taking a protection hit for another survivor unless you get trapped, or unless you're running like Medal of Man or something like that, and you're trying to get like that last stack to activate. Other than that, this perk has no value to it. This is so bad. We need to look at his power. He actually has 4 powers. Look at that. He has 4. I am calling it 4 powers because he has 3 special attacks. So, you have power number 1, which you need in order to use powers number 2 and powers number 3 and 4. You can't use power number 2 with these, realistically. Let's look at what they do. So you have Rites of Judgment is the first one. All right, so let's pause that for a minute. Rites of Judgment. That's the trails he leaves along the ground. Most people don't know how to use it. I'm not going to explain how to use it. It makes him a trap-based killer similar to the Trapper and the Hag. So it gives us a third trap-oriented killer. The power by itself is weak, but it sets up his other 2 abilities involving it. So let's talk about that. Cage of Atonement. This is a very bad perk, or a very bad ability. First off, what it does is it teleports you as far as physically possible away from the killer when you use it. It also does not allow you to activate hook-based abilities. You're not using Pop with a Cage of Atonement. It's not happening. The Cage of Atonement does not activate survivor perks, so no borrowed, no decisive. Good way to take out 2 of the more annoying perks, especially if you know people have them. But you also don't pip off it. You don't get sacrifice points off it. You don't get hook credit for it. It makes it very hard to pip. And it lends itself for camping, because there's no penalty to camping. It doesn't count as a hook in terms of your chaser. Normally what happens when you camp a hook is your chaser emblem will go down over time the longer you spend camping. If it's not a hook, it doesn't do that. The only thing that this counts towards a hook for is for the purposes of Moriing, with a regular Mori, I should add, or in terms of killing a survivor. Putting a survivor in a cage will count as first hook. If you put them on a actual hook, after that, they'll be in struggle phase, and then after that, they'll be death hook or Moriable with the ability. But survivors need to walk over Rites of Judgment in order to do it. It changes how you play around the map, because you don't want to be in Torment. Realistically, Cage of Atonement is worthless. It should only be used in the event that you have multiple survivors down at once. I find the best use is if you have 2 survivors that are down at one time, relatively close to each other, send one to the gulag, the cage, and pick up the other one and hook them, you'll have two people within the span of about 15 seconds on opposite ends of the map, ideally, that force the team to stop working on gens and go for one of the two. Other than that, never use the cages. Period. The last ability that he has down there, the Final Judgment, is the reason why you want people to be in Torment. Because anytime someone is on Death Hook, you can just quick slam and mori them. It takes 5 seconds, and they're dead on hook. What this means is whenever a survivor hits Torment, they become very skittish on their last hook. Because you can just straight up mori them. You don't cage them, you don't hook them, you just mori them. That's the real strength of this killer, is being able to put the fear of God at the end of a game if you're Death Hook, because you can't torment. You cannot get yourself tormented. I think the only real issue with him, this is how I play him, a smart Pyramid Head doesn't use the Cage of Atonement, because that will remove torment from your Rites of Judgment if they are pulled out of the cage. You want them to get tormented, and then you don't need the trails anymore. Once all 4 survivors are there, you no longer need your power, because all you need to do is just simply wait for them to get to Death Hook, because you get the quick mori. There's no way to remove Torment other than pulling someone out of a Cage of Atonement or being pulled out of a Cage of Atonement. And the last one that he has is his little Dr. Shockwave, which is very strong, because it's a damage version of Shock Therapy. It has more range. I think that's his second strongest power besides the Mori. I would say if you're going to stack his powers in order, it would be the Mori, the Beam, the Trails, the Cage, in that order. His Beam is strong, but there is a good amount of counterplay. The real thing is actually how he swings his weapon. So, he doesn't swing he carries his weapon in his right hand like a normal killer, but he doesn't swing forward. He swings in an arc from the right up, which lends him to having this great 180-degree hitbox where anything on the right is getting hit. He's almost like a scissor of sorts, where he just... like that, where he just slams forward in that arc, which means if you're going to 360 him, you have to go to the left. Hold on. You have to go to the left. You have to swing to the left if you're going to 360 him. I knocked my microphone, so I don't know what the sound quality is going to be now, but I don't care. You have to swing to left. You can't do anything else against him. We'll look at the add-ons real quick, and then I'll get to the Survivor. Let's start from the bottom. So you have this right here. This increases the duration of the trails in the environment. This is good because most killers don't know how to lay those trails now. This increases the recharge rate of Rites of Judgment. This is actually counteractive with this. You do not want to run these two together. What people don't realize is you can use the power when it's not fully charged. They kept that from PTB. Apparently it's not a bug. But when you use up that full recharge, using up that recharge bar determines how long that trail stays up. Which is why this is a good add-on, because it lets you leave a trail up for longer. If you use a 30-second charge of your power, this will leave it up longer. But when the bar recharges, those trails go away for the most part. This right here is bad for that. You don't want to increase your recharge rate with this. So they both work well depending on how you're playing him. This increases the total amount of time that Rites of Judgment. This basically increases the duration of your power bar in general. This increases the reach of Punishment of the Damned, which is your beam attack. This is one of his stronger ones, I can tell. Again, this increases the reach. This is strong. This increases the duration of your bar. This increases the duration of the Killer Instinct when a survivor runs over a trail. This is nice for tracking, but it's usually only good if you're further away. The closer you are, the less you need that. This increases the recharge rate of the power. This increases the duration the power remains in the environment. This increases the recharge rate of the power bar. This increases the size of the power bar. This increases the duration of the Killer Instinct off of the trails. This increases the duration of the trails in the environment. This increases the reach of his attack. Common theme here. This increases the duration of Killer Instinct. This is not worth it as a purple add-on. This gives the survivor blindness for 60 seconds. Now, this is not a bad thing, if you're running a build around blindness. But a survivor who triggers the Rites of Judgment knows that they do and gives away their position. So the only perk that this realistically counters is Windows or Bond. This'll help you in Chase, but it's not worth a purple. This gives Oblivious to survivors who run over the trails. This is completely worthless. It lasts for 15 seconds. They already know you're going to come after them when they trigger it. There's no point to that. They already know. This causes the hemorrhage effect whenever they're afflicted by torment. This has no value unless you are running a hemorrhage tracking build. Why in 2020 are you running a hemorrhage tracking build? None of these purple add-ons are any good. This gives the killer the undetectable status effect while standing on a Rites of Judgment trail. This lends itself to camping quite well. This is already a campy killer. Having an Ebony add-on that lets him camp even further is not good for the game. This is Barbecue and Chili for Cage of Atonement. This is a must-have if you're running the cages. If you run this add-on, you're playing around cages. So you can run a good chaser build that's not based around hook perks. But the downside is some of the best perks in the game, Pop, Barbecue, are hook perks. You run this if you plan on using the cages. Other than that, I'm not going to rate where I think the killer is at, because the killer is a bit weak. We're down at the Survivor ones real quick. The Survivor perks. Start with the green ones first. Blood Pact. This is the weakest out of the group, which is why I'm bringing it up first. So the way this works is, when you, or the Obsession, because you can't be the Obsession with this perk, but when you or the Obsession are injured, you will see each other's auras. This is essentially aftercare, but instead of having to unhook or heal to activate it, you just get injured. So this is easier to activate, but it only works for one person, unlike aftercare. It's basically empathy. But you see each other, so you don't both have to run empathy. Now, this is the problem. After completing a healing action on the Obsession, or having the Obsession complete a healing action on you, you should both gain the haste status effect for 10 seconds. That's incorrect, actually, in-game. It may be a bug. Knowing Dead by Daylight, it probably is. I have gone into games with this perk. It doesn't work like that. You and the Obsession both need to be injured, and you both need to heal each other to activate that haste status effect. And by the way, the haste status effect is a 7% movement speed increase for 10 seconds. This is essentially hope after a heal. This is not sprint burst. People seem to think this is sprint burst. It is not sprint burst. It is not adrenaline. You are not getting a 150%. You're not gonna fucking just road run around around the map. It's 7%. It's haste. It's like breakout or hope. This perk's not worth it to me. The other thing too is if you are the Obsession, this perk will immediately deactivate, and you can't reactivate it even if the Obsession switches. So Decisive, Nemesis, Furtive Chase, these are things that you don't want with this perk. I feel this is a low tier perk. It's a D tier perk to me. The best this perk could get would be a B tier. Best. And even then, I don't see that being good. We'll cover the mediocre perk next. Where are they? Mediocre, Repressed Alliance. Very good against certain perks, but basically you need to repair a generator for 60 seconds, which is less than one full gen. Okay? Perk activates. You press X on the generator, and it will block for 30 seconds. Perk deactivates. You reactivate it by working on gen for another 60 seconds. Well, why do you want to block a gen? So the killer can't pop it. Imagine being able to 99 a gen, but you need to go for an unhook. Imagine being able to just press X and block the gen, so the killer with pop or surge can't do shit to it. There's two big things I need to mention on this perk. One, you cannot use this if multiple survivors are on a gen. That's number one. So, do not expect to be able to troll people by just blocking the gen in front of them. Number two, ruin overrides this. If you block a gen while Ruin is active, Ruin will continue to tick down and be highlighted to the killer while having no way to counteract that. So do not run this perk or use this perk if you're going against Ruin, but you do want to use it with Pop. So this is very helpful. I would call this right now a C tier perk with potential to be a B tier perk again. I could see it very strongly being a B tier perk. This one is just insane. This is Soul Guard. So, basically this gives you a Styptic agent every single time you are healed or recover from the dying state. Blah! That's broken. It also lets you fully recover from the dying state. Think Unbreakable or No Mither. Anytime you're affected by a Hex. Now, what this does is it lends itself to being very useful against killers who want to use Hex perks. For example, this prevents slugging with Noed. This will keep a killer from slugging with Noed, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it's also not necessarily a bad thing. This will keep killers from slugging with Ruin, Huntress the Lullaby, Thrill of the Hunt, Hex Retribution. The only perk that this realistically doesn't work against is Haunted Ground. Because Haunted Ground pops. This prevents slugging with Devour. This prevents slugging with Noed. This prevents slugging with Ruin. This prevents slugging with Lullaby. This prevents slugging with Thrill the Hunt. This prevents slugging with Retribution. This prevents slugging with Third Seal. 7 perks in the game this counters. 7! And is a built-in Styptic agent. This is an A tier perk. A! I don't want to fucking hear it. A! This... I wanted to throw this in when I made this video. I know it's going to make it a little longer. This survivor is Ash. When Ash first came out. When Ash first came out, Flip-Flop was the mediocre one, Buckle Up was the shit one, and Metal Man was the broken one that got nerfed. This is the same. Repressed Alliance is the meh one, it won't really get touched. Blood Pact is the shit one, it might get buffed. But Buckle Up didn't, so I don't think it will. And Soul Guard's the broken one, which is going to get nerfed, and then they're going to have to buff it up slowly. They're going to hit it with the Sledgehammer, they're going to kill it into the ground, and then they'll buff it up back slowly. This is broken. This makes me test for Ruin at the start of every game. And if I see it, I don't cleanse it unless it's pissing me off. Other than that, where do I think the killer is? I'm not going to comment on the killer. I want to play against him more. Rank reset is not doing any favors playing around the killer. I don't think a lot of people realize that, how bad it is to play right now because of rank reset and the new killer. So, we'll see. I can tell you for a fact, he is not touching A tier. He is not touching Freddy. He is not touching Ghostface. He is not touching Billy. He is out of top 3. I can also confirm that he is not a bottom tier killer. He's not touching Pig. He's not touching Clown. And he's not touching Hag. So, I will update my killer tier list and my perk tier list. I'll put an update when that comes. In the meantime, thank you for watching. I'm going to drop